There is a certain tiredness that sleep cannot reach. You wake up after a whole 8 hours, perhaps even 10, and are still inclined to feel like you are carrying a boulder. Not in your bones or muscles, but somewhere else, within your soul where the weight is invisible but crushing. It's like you're lugging around baggage filled with unprocessed emotions, unuttered truths, and unfulfilled expectations, and no amount of rest untangles it. When someone says, "What's wrong?" you struggle to come up with an answer because it's not one big disaster that shattered you. It's the gradual trickle of 1,000 little things, lost chances, stifled feelings, and constant demands that have quietly drained your soul over time. Have you ever experienced this sort of weight, where simply describing it makes you tired? Individuals who are exhausted with being do not necessarily want to disappear. They are not seeking an end, they merely wish the cacophony to cease. The din of expectation crying out, "You ought to be." The din of comparison softly murmuring, "You're behind." The din of faking it when each day resembles an improvisational performance you never agreed to. Psychologists term this emotional exhaustion, a state wherein your mind no longer struggles, not because it is weak, but because it is spent. Can you remember a time when you pushed through, even when you had nothing left to give? This occurs when your emotional output is vastly greater than your emotional input, such as running a marathon with no source of water visible. You've been investing energy into just keeping going, work, relationships, responsibilities, but not getting much back to fill your cup. At first glance, these individuals tend to appear okay. They go to work, smile at the right moments, and check off their to-do lists. But inside, the world is muted, like a song playing underwater. Joy feels like a language they once spoke fluently but can no longer recall. What's wild is that this isn't just emotional, it's biological. Under prolonged stress, your brain rewires itself for survival mode. It begins to filter life through a fatigue lens, numbing your reward systems. Dopamine, the motivational chemical, crawls at a trickle. The things that used to turn you on, a favorite tune, a sunset, a good joke, begin to feel like old memories. Does it ever seem like your spark is dying and you're not sure why? When someone says, "I'm just tired," laziness is not talking. It's their mind saying, "I've been holding too much for too long." This is where psychology intersects with raw humanity. Behind every drained soul is a narrative, not of failure, but of perseverance. These are frequently the peacemakers, the helpers, the ones who show up for everyone else even when their own tank is low. They've become experts at surviving chaos but never learned to rest in peace. Who do you know that's always there for others but never, or at least barely, for themselves? We exist in a culture that celebrates hustle but not harmony. You're rewarded for burning the midnight oil, for pushing past pain, for being on all the time. But when was the last time someone showered you with praise for taking a quiet day to think, to feel, to just be? Worth is equated with movement by society. So when you do eventually stop, guilt infiltrates, whispering failure in rest. This guilt puts individuals in the vicious cycle of silent fatigue, where the mind whispers, "You don't deserve rest until you've earned it." The harsh paradox is this: if you wait to earn rest, you'll never attain it. Contemporary life always has another thing, another task, another goal, another box to tick. So you run and run, even after you've forgotten how or why you began. Have you ever felt guilty for slowing down, as if you're letting the world down? Not being tired of living doesn't necessarily make you strong. Often it means you've been too strong for way too long. You've been shouldering feelings you never dealt with, burdens you didn't accept, and expectations no one could possibly live up to. Years of pretending the weight isn't important, your spirit finally says, "I can't do this anymore." There's a psychological term for this, anhedonia, which is the loss of ability to feel pleasure. It's not depression, it's blankness, existing in a world of grays where everything positive feels nothing. Your brain, protecting itself, gives up on pursuing happiness because it's learned happiness doesn't come through. It's better to hope for nothing rather than risk another disappointment. Have you ever had the feeling that happiness is just out of grasp, no matter how much effort you put forth? This fatigue culminates in withdrawal, not out of malice but out of necessity. Social energy is too expensive. Pleasantries are like mountain climbing. You may cancel plans, remain silent in social situations, or want to be alone, not because you despise people, but because your body can't take another request. This isn't quitting, it's self-preservation. When the world is too much, solitude is a haven from a storm. The quiet may be hollow, but at least it doesn't ache. Have you ever felt the need to retreat just so you could breathe? This exhaustion is cumulative, constructed from decades of emotional repression. Each "I'm fine" when you weren't, each mimed smile in place of tears, each time you remained quiet to maintain harmony, it all compounds. You wake up one morning and find that you can no longer pretend to have the energy. The symptoms are insidious but searing. Music doesn't move you the same, laughter becomes strained, and moments slow like molasses. You glance about and ask yourself, when did life not feel like life anymore? Can you identify the moment when the world began feeling heftier than it ought to? There's also a layer known as meaning fatigue. When you disconnect from the things that make your life meaningful, everything feels like a weight. It's not that you despise being alive, it's that you can't come up with a justification to continue repeating the same thing over and over. Wake up, work, scroll, sleep, repeat. The days become muddled and you begin wondering, what's the point? But that question doesn't lead to a dead end, it's a wake-up call. When your soul is whispering, what's the point? It's actually saying, give me a reason to stay. This place, as difficult as it is where magic happens. Fatigue, at its root, is a message that something in your life isn't in harmony with who you are. Have you ever questioned what your life's purpose is? Psychologists such as Viktor Frankl, who went through the Holocaust, found meaning is medicine. Human beings can survive just about anything if they have a why. Finding your why again does not solve everything at once, but it redistributes the burden. Fatigue transitions from "nothing matters" to "I'm growing." Don't struggle against the exhaustion, but rather heed it. It's not a curse. It's a messenger whispering, you've outgrown something. Perhaps it's a job that sucks the life out of you, a lifestyle that doesn't suit, or a version of yourself that made it through but no longer flourishes. What's one thing in your life that feels like it's weighing you down? If you're sensing that quiet pain, that tug for something more, you're not broken, you're awakening. There's an odd beauty in this. Individuals who have borne emotional exhaustion tend to become the most compassionate hearts. They feel hurt behind the smiles, speak in hushed tones, and love fiercely because they've figured out that pretending does not heal. This exhaustion humbles you, peeling away illusions and making you confront what's actual. Life isn't endless accomplishment or ceaseless movement. It's about alignment, discovering those still places where you can breathe without doing. Have you ever come across someone who simply understands you, no explanation required? If that's you, understand this. You're not alone. You're not weird for thinking this way. You're human in a world that's lost its rest. You don't have to solve everything today. You don't have to manufacture happiness or pretend to be awake. Just begin listening to your fatigue. What is it whispering to you? Sometimes tired of being is not the end, it's the start of living another way. When you allow yourself to say you're tired, something breaks. You're telling the truth about yourself, and the truth, although heavy, is where you begin to heal. What would it be like to be truthful with yourself at this moment? Healing isn't found in distractions, new habits, new screens, new goals. What you're hungry for is not more movement, it's meaning. Meaning is found in the smallest details. The sound of rain against the window pane, a song that seems to have been written specifically about you, or silence that doesn't require effort. In those moments, your nervous system releases a sigh of relief. Thank you. Rest isn't laziness, it's repair. What's one small piece that settles over you, even if it's only momentarily? When you are resting emotionally, you notice how much your life has been centered on survival. Each decision, each response, has been about avoiding hurt instead of creating peace. Your brain is programmed for security at the expense of happiness, so even when life is fine on paper, you feel empty. Safety without meaning is a cage. When you're exhausted of being, you're not surrendering. You're looking for something more to live for, something that makes it worth getting up in the morning. That something doesn't have to be huge, it merely has to exist. What is something that gives you life, even a small spark? There is also an idea of existential fatigue, in which the spirit fatigues from living without meaning. You can have comfort, stability, even success, but if it doesn't align with who you are, it drains you. Humans aren't built for empty routines, we're built to feel alive. That's why this emptiness sparks questions about your career, values, or relationships. Your soul is tired of pretending, saying, "This life doesn't fit anymore." That realization is sacred. It's the first step toward authenticity. What would your life look like if you stopped pretending? Energy comes from alignment, not just sleep or food. When your actions match your values, you feel light. When they don't, even small tasks crush you. You can work 12 hours on something you love and feel alive, but 2 hours on something you hate leaves you wrecked. The body follows the soul. To break free, start small. Pay attention to what's draining you. Pay attention to what's feeding you. Perhaps it's specific people, habits, or the costume you wear to appear resilient. Let them go softly. Recovery is not a show, it's a soft return to you. What's one thing you might release to be lighter? The world is not requiring perfection. You are in fear that pause means lagging behind. But lagging behind what? Behind whom? We're all just looking for our own ways to keep moving. When you cease comparing your journey to other people's journeys, you realize peace wasn't ever after accomplishment, it was after acceptance. Accepting your fatigue without judgment alters the way you treat yourself. Instead of "what's wrong with me," you say, "What's my mind saying?" That's a path back to life. What's your mind attempting to communicate to you today? You begin to find wonder again in little things. Sunlight pouring over your room, the scent of coffee, a song that finds you. These touchstones remind you that life does not have to be remarkable to be significant, to be lived. To feel is something we learn not to do as adults, instructed to dissect and make better rather than sit in sorrow or embrace delight without fear. Emotional burnout usually stems from caring too much, from a hurt heart that never stopped giving. The path back is through letting go, allowing yourself to cry, rest, and realize you don't know it all. When did you last allow yourself to feel without censoring? Research in positive psychology reveals that small doses of awe, gazing up at the night sky, listening to music that stirs you, or writing to your younger self, increase life satisfaction and decrease burnout. All brings you back to life, reminding you that being here is important. This weariness, as burdensome as it is, takes life bare. It challenges you to rebuild an authentic life, not a flawless one. If you're in that spot where days all blend together and the everyday stuff seems impossible, you're not behind. You're not broken. You're being called back to join again. What's one tiny glimpse of wonder that you can look for today? Your fatigue is a compass directing you toward something true: slowness, honesty, sense. If you listen to it, the world changes. Colors deepen. Music is near. You laugh not because everything's fixed, but because you've made peace with the cracks. That peace is where life begins again. There will be days when the weight returns, but now you'll know it's not the end, it's a signal. You're someone who feels deeply, thinks deeply, lives deeply. That's something to be proud of. Being tired of existing doesn't mean you've failed. It means you've paused long enough to see that life deserves to be lived consciously, not just endured. That pause, that breath, that gentle awareness might just be the start of everything you've been searching for. What's one small step you can take today to live a little more consciously?